Move right or get checked, because this is a chess game life. Okay, so life is asymmetrical. Let's first agree on that. And what I mean by saying that is, for us to comprehend things, there has to be polar opposites, right? So though life can be cruel, we gotta have up, down, left, right. We have to have sick. We have to have healthy. We have to have cold. We have to have hot. We have to have dark. We have to have light. These things are necessary for us to be able to comprehend the differences of one and the other, right? So they need to exist, is my point. So men and women are also asymmetrical in how they work generally. So if I expand a little bit, is to also say, uh, firstly, men might pride things being neat. Women might pride things being clean. Men might pride organization. Women might pride disaster, right? But it's not that they pride it, it's that each one of us, in order to need the other, we have to be asymmetrical. So the man might say he's the problem solver, and then the woman might be the one that brings the problem to the table for the man to solve. Uh, so a man might be more aggressive, generally, right? We would agree. Women would be more feminine or less aggressive. Men tend to be generally taller. Women tend to be generally shorter. Men tend to be. I think we get the point, right? So following that through, what we need to understand is how important it is for one to exist with the other and respect that the other has shortcomings so that we can fill those shortcomings. A woman can give birth, a man cannot give birth. A woman grows and incubates the baby in the belly, and out comes the child. But firstly, we have semen, obviously, and we release all of our boys down the tunnel, and one can't exist without the other. So my point is is that one should not try to be what the other is, and that's tough because it begs a woman to question who she should be with, and that's important because you qualify him on some instinctual level. And when you qualify him on that instinctual level, you're following your instinct. But social construct, social pressure will make women think that they can be just like men and not be affected. Not possible. And I'll explain why. Men could not even like the woman and have no problem having sex with her. He could be attracted to her physically or whatever the situation presents itself, but this is nature. It's just how it is. A woman transversely is most likely not going to have sex with a woman that she doesn't have sex with a man that she doesn't like. Why? Because we are asymmetrical. It doesn't mean that it's right or it's wrong. It just is. Hot water is not right. Cold water is not right. But hot and cold water together makes sense. And that's how I want you guys to start to understand how relationships work. It's hot and cold water together. You see? So there might be some things that you just don't understand, but you don't have to understand them. What you have to do is respect them and accept them. And respecting and accepting makes it easier because you're not fighting to find something that doesn't make sense. A guy can't fight to find a woman that's just like him and then be upset because she's too masculine. And a woman can't fight to try to find a woman that has too much in common with her because then what? He's feminine. So we have this whole idea in the Western world that if if a man can be more like a woman, it's bad, but if a woman can be more like a man, it's good. And I understand why a woman might think that. But here's what I want you to think about. If you pick the wrong man, that doesn't mean that all men are not useful or don't know what it is that they should be doing. For example, if you buy a car and the car has a lot of problems, and whatever brand car that is, you decide, okay, you know what? I have to do more research before I buy a car. That's what happens with men and women. You have to do more research before you give them the prize. And I know it's hard. It's not easy. But if you want to do what makes sense, then you got to follow your instinct. Men govern themselves by quantity of women. Women by quality of men. But now we have a bunch of young girls that think that having a roster is okay, because they can just go get plan B, or they can do whatever it is that they need to do, and boom, there goes any risk in the reward situation, except for maybe, sexual illnesses and stuff like that. So you have to consider these things. So qualify the man by what he does, not by what he says. What he says and what he does may be two totally different things. And if those things don't match, you don't give him the prize. Because a lot of women think that if they give the man sex that they can acquire him. No, what you've done is you just given him something that he wants, which will keep him around. But your characteristics, your asymmetry, is what is going to keep you in the relationship long term and not have him looking for other opportunities. Now, of course, men have a tendency, again, instinctually to want quantity. And if you can sustain quantity, and that's what you want to do, and you want to have multiple women, be honest with the female. Tell her the truth. If you tell her the truth and she buys into what it is that you're selling, then it's no problem. But if you sell her a lie, and too many men, to get to what they want, which is the sex, will sell a woman a lie. If you sell a woman a lie, sooner or later, she's going to figure it out. And when she does figure it out, if she decides to leave, that's the risk that you took. And a lot of guys are okay with that. But women, by and large, are not okay in that type of situation, because we are hot and cold, up and down, left and right, sick and healthy. That's just the way that it is. Asymmetry. But if you look around you, asymmetry makes everything work, right? You open the door, you close the door. These are all very simple concepts when you really start to think about it. But what happens is that social pressure starts to make you feel as if everything is complicated. Everything is not complicated. It's just as simple as you paying attention to your surroundings. That's really what it is. And, there's a lot of women, beautiful women, that are winding up alone because they thought that in their youth they could acquire a man with sex. All you can do is get in the door. And just about any woman can acquire a man with sex. Doesn't make you special. What makes you special is your character. What makes you special is, your benefit is, do you understand how to make a man feel? Do you understand what men generally want, how men generally think? Because that's the thing. People will tell you, oh, everybody's different. Oh yeah, everybody's different? Okay. So let's go with everybody's different. Right? If everybody was so different, it wouldn't be that easy for us to procreate. On some level, we all have to be the same. On a bunch of levels, we all have to be the same. So generally, women want guys that are taller, successful, smell good, dress nice, speak well, problem solve, have patience, have emotional maturity, right? That's general, right? Generally, that's what all women want. So how can we be so different? Generally, men want a woman to be kind, soft, smell good, sexy to a degree, obviously, attractive. They want them to be someone that wants to be protected, because we are the protectors, right? So if we're with a bunch of women that don't want to be protected, then we don't feel like we're doing what our job is. And if we don't feel like we're doing what our job is, then we need, our instincts will tell us to go elsewhere. So a lot of women get cheated on and they want to blame men. And a lot of times it is men. So they're right. But a lot of times they're wrong. And I'm going to expand upon why that could be. It's very difficult, we all agree, for a man to get into a relationship with a woman. It takes a lot of work, takes a lot of time, takes a lot of thinking, takes a lot of planning, takes a lot of effort, right? Okay. So when a guy finally gets a girl that he wants to be with, that he wants to spend time with, that he wants to spend his resources on, that he wants to provide for, that he wants to protect, it takes a lot for that man to not stay and choose that woman. So he'll go through the aggravation, and he'll go through the fights, and he'll go through the frustration, and he'll suffer in silence, and he'll do all these things. But then he comes to a breaking point, the moment that he feels like, logically, this relationship does not benefit him the way that he thought that it would. And sometimes he's right, but it has to do with asymmetry. It has to do with her understanding who you are as a man and what you like and how you think and how you feel and what makes you feel loved, and vice versa. So you can talk about love languages until your face is blue and all this other kind of stuff, but it's actually very simple. A man wants to be admired first. He wants to be appreciated second. He wants to feel like his work is being appreciated, right? That makes him feel love. Women, on the other hand, they want you to show them you love them by making them feel safe, making them feel secure around you, making them feel like you know how to take care of them without them having to say very much, which in most cases tends to be that way, right? So take into consideration what it is that I'm saying, because nature can be very cruel. I'll give you an example of how nature can be very cruel, but it just is, and we don't question it. There's a spider, right? And that spider will pick a mate, eat the mate, and serve it to her children. We may think it's horrible, we may think it's wrong, but it just is. And it's successful that way. So it doesn't matter how we feel about it. What matters is that it continues to be that way. So that spider can continue to be a species that stays alive. Here, I'll give you another one. You have lions, right? You have a lion and you have a lioness. So if you have a lion and you have a lioness, each one of them has duties. In this situation, champion the woman, right? The woman goes out, she does the hunting, she's strong, she's fearless, right? She goes and she does the hunting and she brings back the hunt, and then she feeds the babies, and the lazy lion just sits there, right? Isn't that cool, right? Nah, that's not cool. That's not even how it is. So now we expand. Let's think this way. The lion decides, you know what? She's gone out a couple of times. She hasn't been bringing that food back. I'm going to go out and I'm going to go get this food because I think I could do a better job. And I don't need her to do this job. I could do it by myself. So guess what happens? He tells the lioness, you stay home and I'll take off and go into the woods and go bring back a real kill. So what happens? He goes off, and against his instinct, he decides he's going to go for the kill. So he goes out there and he goes and he grabs a kill, and he's so proud. But it's a big kill. And it's very hard for him to drag back. And it takes him longer than he thought. So he gets back, and then the pride is dead. Why? Asymmetry. He didn't follow his instincts. So now there was nobody there to defend the children except her. And she was not strong enough to fight the other lion because they followed their instinct. They survived. But because he didn't, they failed. So what would happen in most cases is they're going to blame this lion for making the error of not following his instincts. So now think about this when it comes to men and women. Different, right? All of a sudden, things have become clear. I came up with this channel because I felt like I was trying to do things to the best of my ability and failing at relationships. And I was picking women for the wrong reasons. Sometimes your instinct will tell you that you should save a woman in distress, meaning if a woman has had a really tough life with men, then you should show her what a good man is. And you should, lasso the moon. But the reality is none of that works. It doesn't. Your instinct is misleading you because you're thinking that if you were treated bad by a lot of women or whatever, and a woman came and treated you the best, you would choose her and stay with her forever. That's true, but we are asymmetrical, hot and cold. So in that type of a situation, I've spoken about this in the past, you wind up carrying the cross for her. And there's something noble about it, but that's up to you to decide because it's not an easy thing to do, to carry the cross of her past. So all the decisions that she's made when it comes to men that may have not been maybe the best decisions, now she might feel like she doesn't trust men in general. But what I want women to consider is, think about a car. Women use this all the time. They say, oh, if you want a Maserati, then you got to be ready to pay the maintenance cost. So I'm going to use a car because a lot of women tend to use this kind of idea. If you buy a car and it's not reliable, and you're smart financially, you don't buy that car anymore. And you do research on what is the proper car to buy to achieve the goal that you want to achieve, right? You don't become the car. You do the research. So what's happening now is that women see a guy, they're attracted to the guy, they're concerned about, competition, and women are giving up sex too fast, and a lot of women decide that, they're just going to give up the sex just as fast. Don't do that. Don't do that. And a lot of men are going to say, shut up. But you got to move right or get checked. Because this is a chess game life. And that's where that slogan and that phrase comes from. It comes from understanding what moves you need to make and taking time to think about them before you make those decisions. So we saw what happens with the spider, right? We see what happens when the lion doesn't do what he's supposed to do. So this whole idea of, men just think that women are baby-making machines. What could be more important than being the part of the species that is the only reason, or one of the main reasons, that the species is brought to pass, brought to life? That's not something that should be downplayed. It's something that should be championed. A woman being soft and feminine should be something that should be championed. But no, the 1% of the Western world that make all of the money have bamboozled women into thinking that a feminist movement of women that can be just like men is a good idea. It's not. And a lot of successful women that are in their 40s and that are beautiful, strong, successful women have very harsh and dramatic relationships. Because the balance of the hot and the cold, the up and the down, the open and the closed, the day and the night is not there. So you have this empty feeling because you're trying to achieve exactly what that is. So a woman might look elsewhere, or a man might look elsewhere. That's instinct. But consider this. If you've been with somebody that you love, and you've been with them for a really long time, and you've learned to accept them, then you're halfway there. What you need to do is learn how to accept them on an instinctual, naturalistic level. And that's pretty easy. Research. Anybody that's ever been good at anything has only done it well because they've studied and they've practiced. So study and practice. Study and practice. If you're a guy, study and practice what a woman is. And I don't mean you practice it. I mean, study and practice the thinking and understanding the thinking and the process of their thinking. And if you're a woman, study and practice. That's it. So move right or get checked, because this is a chess game life. Peace.